So if you bought a new Super Duty, much like the one I have here, you might have noticed a little bit of a problem. If you're watching this video, chances are you don't have upfitter switches in your truck, and you might want them. But if your truck does not have upfitter switches, like you can see here, we're going to show you how to install them. This is the overhead console from a Platinum with the auxiliary upfitter switches. Now the reason why I went with one off of a Platinum is just because it's black. This is a Lariat trim. Everything else in here is black, so I figure this would just complement the rest of the trim. So here I'll just show you guys. This tab comes off and reveals the bolt. You just got to pinch right over here and just lift up and it'll just fold back. There's a little, I guess, tab in here that keeps it from coming out. There's a 10 mil bolt just inside there, 10 mil bolt inside this one, and that's the only thing holding the A-pillar on. And then you'll just have to remove the clip from the tweeter, and you can just leave that right there for now. So pulling the overhead console out, just the original one, it's just held in with these style locking tabs. All you got to do is just pull down. It's going to feel a little unnatural, but it'll come. And you can swap yours out. Anyway, put all the factory plugs in wherever they go, and then the addition of this little guy here, and then we're gonna have to run it through here and then down the A-pillar.
Headliner is held on with these neodymium magnets. Those are the clips that they use to hold the headliners up on these trucks now.
So the next step is you got to remove the sun visor. So to do that, there's a 7 mil bolt right in here. Drops this clip out right here. So there's a 7 mil in there. And then on the actual headliner itself, you'll have to remove, just pull on this top trim piece. That'll pop back out. And there'll be another 7 mil bolt back here. Slide this out. And then on the higher trim models with the light and whatnot and the garage door opener and the sun visor, there'll be this clip that you have to remove as well that sends power to it. And then I guess you just pull. Just be careful where you pull so you don't crease it. Find out where the magnet is. And then under here you have two of these clips. It's difficult to see, but you just shove a flathead underneath there. Right inside there. You just pop the teeth out and do the same for the one on the left side and the right side. Oh, there we go. What a fancy way to hold stuff up. So now we've got the old harness out. This is the one that's not going to be used. And it goes right, let's see my finger right here, unclips from there, pull that out, and then this clip right here is going to go into there, and this over here, this all is going to run down your A-pillar eventually and go to the next harness. So we're going to go and clip all that up. There is, from where this light is, sorry, these two little pieces, they just clip onto the plastic there, just so you'll see how the factory one is, and when you're replacing it, just bunches down there. After you ran the cable down, you pull this foam piece out, and then just inside there you should be able to see right there, that clip is exposed, and you just clip it right in there, and then you just run your cabling up. So there's a good view of that clip right there. Be able to see it. Clipped in, and then you run your cabling all the way up, and now we're ready to send the next part. What we're doing here is removing the inner fender well so we can get access to run the cabling around from where it's going to live over here, and then through here it's going to go down underneath the fan shroud and then back up again on the other side. So we're going to have to remove both of the wheel well liners. On the driver's side, you're going to have to remove 3 T30 Torx heads, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 7/32 or 5.5 mil bolts that are on the fender, 1 really annoying tree clip, and kind of like a serrated punched out washer thing on both sides as well. The passenger side has the same 6 7/32 bolts, but only has 2 T30 Torx, also with the annoying tree clip and the serrated washer that's also kind of a bit of a pain to get out. So to find this connector,
has a cap installed on it, and it's located right here.
right underneath the wheel well.
So this had a cap pre-installed on it previously. All you gotta do is just remove the cap and well, wrote that.
Let's do it.
Engine bay.
Okay, I'll grab this one. We'll start sending that down into there. What we're doing here is we got Kevin up there and he's routing the cable down where it's eventually going to mount on those 2 tabs right over there. You can see just above that harness. And it's going to go down through here. There's a bunch of push clips. We go underneath the wheel well liner here. You can see where the light is shining. There's a hole. That's where the first push clip goes. This is the existing harness, and it's going to clip onto that. You can see just where the cable starts to bend. There's an open harness clip over there. It's going to clip right onto that, and you're going to follow it underneath the fan and all the way around. So we're going to try to just keep feeding this. This is eventually where it's going to clip onto, and also into a hole that's back here. You can feel it. See right up there, there's another clip here. We're just going to follow that. Basically follow this radiator hose. Just above that's going to be another harness. Try to get some light here. You can see it just poking up through there. There we go. And that's where it's going to go and back up. So that's how we're going to route it.
Okay, so we have the main harness kind of staged in place here. This is the 14A303 harness, which is the high current heavy gauge load cable that goes to the high current battery junction box. However, on this spur of this harness, there is a low current control line, and this is what's coming from the interior switches. These are the non-load carrying triggers. And what we're going to do is we're going to just we've removed the cap that was on that connector already, and we're going to mate it with the harness that is already present on this vehicle. And again, this is a water resistant connector. It has a gasket seal on it, and we're just going to push till it clicks. And our next step here is we're going to now route this high current feed cable from the driver's side of the vehicle to the passenger side of the vehicle, and push everything in with tree clips and zip ties wherever appropriate. Okay, you work your way down then.
Alright, well I got a lot of slack down here. I'm going to push back up towards you. And now we're going to remove the air box. We came up with the cable here. And we're just going to go and route that around the air box. I'm pretty sure that's where it's supposed to go. So this cable comes up and it actually goes underneath the fan shroud, and you'll find a big cable down there, and it's full of clips that the upfitter harness clips to. So it's almost like it was meant to be there. Funny that Ford says that this mod cannot be done after the fact, when literally there's capped off connectors and everything just ready to go. So yeah, we're just gonna pull the airbox out now and see where the rest of this cabling goes. Okay, so one of the next steps we're going to have to do is remove this trim piece and the snorkel to the intake. So, to remove that, there's 14 push clips that you can pull out with a screwdriver. And this piece will come right off. And then, the snorkel is just held on with 2 clips on each side right here and right here. So you just push those 2 in and the whole assembly just pops right out. Next up is the air box and the intake. You can see it's already been removed, but the air box is 2 8mm screws in here, and then just the associated hose clamps and everything just pulls right out. And you can leave that off to the side as well. Excellent view. You can see this right here. That's the cable coming up that we've added for the upfitter switches, and that clip right there is part of this factory harness, and that's how we run it. So we're going to take this and clip it basically right here. This is the passenger side wheel well now that we've come through, and this one is dropped actually quite nicely, and you can see just how nice it is to route the cabling once you've dropped the wheel well liner. So it is really worth it to drop the liner. I can't even see what I'm doing here, so we're gonna, there we go. Not the most satisfying click with these, but that's how they go together. And then we're just gonna look for wherever these, go, these push pins. There's another one here, and just keep routing it. And from what we can tell, we've also loosened the fuse box off a little bit so that we can properly route everything. You can see running right there is where we've came up behind the fan shroud. So fan shroud and secondary coolant loop reservoir for reference. Come through here with the snorkel out. You can see the main harness right there, and then the secondary one that we've ran for the upfitter switch is right there. And it comes down and around, and you can see it. It'll come up right through there. There's a couple clips for it, and then we came through behind the battery. There's a tray. This tray right here. It's got to go behind here, so that's why the wheel well liner had to come out. And then you can see right here. This is where it meets up. You'll find a clip onto the main harness where you put the secondary harness onto, wrap it through here, and it's going to go around through underneath the fuse box, and you can see where that ear is, where it's been clipped through, where Kevin's clipped it through. And then the white tab, you can see, just pops right in there right beside the white tab that's already existing. And then this will come up right over here, and it just goes right under that tab, under that cover. So here you can see the positive that's already existing, and then this is the negative from the upfitter harness. This bolt is not included with any of the kits, so this has to be sourced on your own. So, slide this one back on, line it up. We'll also grab our snorkel, slide that in as well.
Okay, so the other part of this mod we're going to do after installing the upfitter switches and relay fuse box combination is to set up the high idle feature that we're going to want in the wintertime here. So one of the most pertinent documents available from the Ford website, this is the Ford Bodybuilder Advisory Service website, is document Q256R1, which is a manual for interfacing aftermarket equipment such as power takeoffs onto the truck. Now, in here, we're specifically interested in the stationary elevated idle control feature. The document itself is multiple pages, but there are about 4 pages that are most relevant in here, and that would be the upfitter switch colors and locations. So in this case, we're going to select one of the lower amperage switches so that we're not wasting a high current circuit. So we can use one of the 25 amp circuits, ignition hot only. This also has the resistor charts. So this is the stationary elevated idle control interface. It needs to go between pins 9 and 10. So for the 2017 and up model year, they have switched to a connectorized approach rather than just using blunt cut circuits as in the past. And which is really handy. We can actually bench assemble this resistor prior to installing this in the vehicle. So basically we're going to put the resistance value. We've selected approximately 1200 RPM, so that on the table it's 19,491 ohms. In reality, you're going to be close, you're not going to be exactly there. So we're just going to verify. I have what I have known to be 20k ohm resistors by the color bands, but we're going to just actually verify this on the meter here. And with the leads clipped on here, we're seeing 19.98 kilo ohms, which is reasonably close to that 1200 RPM set point. Again, you're only creating a voltage divider across the circuit. So this goes to a reference voltage level, which is a regulated voltage coming from the powertrain control module. So you can see here, PCM output here has pins 9 and 10, which is green and white-brown respectively. So that is the PTO reference, which is a regulated DC voltage, and the RPM, which is a analog input on the powertrain control module that reads the resultant voltage after you create the voltage divider circuit. Now, the alternative is to use a potentiometer, which is also detailed out in this document. Again, this is all freely available from the Ford website. The service manual isn't, but really this schematic is all you need to assemble it. And if you wanted to use a variable, you can use a 3-terminal potentiometer, 5 kilo ohms to have variable RPM. The reason why we're just going to use a fixed resistance is because of stability. Fixed resistors, these are quarter-watt carbon film resistors. They're very stable even in varying temperatures. In automotive environments, high vibration, high humidity, you name it, I tend to see potentiometers fail in the way that they get scratchy, similar to scratchy pots on your audio systems you might have experienced in the past. That can be mitigated by using hermetically sealed potentiometers. But anyway, again, that's all cost. Because we're going to drive this off of one of the upfitter switches, it is going to be operator commanded from the inside of the cab anyway, so we're just going to use fixed resistances to in this particular circuit. Now the third wire that we need to know is PTO1, which is yellow-green, and that is again on this connector here, the connector called C213, and again, this is actually detailed out on the tag that is attached to this pigtail. We found this pigtail already pre-attached on the passenger side footwell kick panel. So where the body control module tend to located in the vehicle, this pigtail was already pre-installed on it. Other vehicles might have them still installed in a bag, but the connector is standard issue with all 2017 and up Ford Superduties. It's not an optional part. And so this should be included. Okay, so basically our next step here is I'm going to install that 20k resistor across the voltage reference pins here. We're going to do it with, I'm going to solder and shrink wrap this connector to assure maximum reliability. And then we are going to hook up the PTO1 to one of the upfitter switches circuits. So, moving on. So we will now solder this onto our harness here. Tastes like lead. Pre-shrink wrapped this event. Where the transparent ones are good actually, because you can easily see the resistor value after the fact if you were ever curious what it might have been.
So that is shrink wrapped with clear shrink wrap.
Crap. Still see you can still see the bands that denote the value of the resistor and the tolerance. Green yellow, aka PTO1 wire into, or yellow green rather, yellow with green tracer, into the customer access circuit pass-through white wire, which is all on this passenger footwell. Okay, we're ready to join the wires. Hand me my 6337. Good old full lead solder. Okay, so this is the completed PTO harness with the PTO1 wire, the yellow with green tracer wired to the customer access circuit pass-through, going through the firewall into the engine bay. So, and this also has my 20K carbon film quarter watt resistor in the PTO RPM and PTO ref lines on here. So we've buttoned it back up. This is the body control module in the passenger footwell.
Nice. So now at this point you can see here we have the two red cables for future expansions and the black cable which is going to be for the elevated idle, and all we did is just drilled a couple holes on the top of this plastic trim here and then added some cable ties so we could go all the way across to the relay box, which is over here, and then all we have left to do is just pick a switch and hook up our wires, cap off these two for future use. So this is basically just tuck them into the loom, electrical tape it up just so that it's all there, so when we want to add a couple other things we can just add them later, and then with whatever we decide to do. So anyway, we'll just make this look all neat, tuck it away. We'll give it a sample on video. This part we didn't really go into detailed videoing because it's really simple. All we did is literally just took our drill, went straight down, made a hole, ran the cable, and then put a zip tie. So not really much of a thing to explain there. For the future expansions though, however, we did heat shrink it up here and then crimp the end just so water doesn't get in there and ruin our cables. So whenever future stuff happens, whenever we decide to add something to the truck, and these are the pass-through ones that already come through the truck. Even if you don't have upfitters on your truck from the factory like mine, this will still exist there, which is kind of nice. And if you're looking for the clip that you'll add the resistor to for the elevated idle, that's already plugged in. It's just you need to go through the access panel in the passenger side of the truck and it'll be right there. So we did that. Ours was right there. This truck never had it from the factory, like I said. Yeah, as you can see, it's pretty well final stages now, and we just got to finish her up. It's all in the details. So even future expansions were properly labeled using a label maker.
We've soldered the customer access circuits on the passenger side. Now we're on the driver's side hooking up the cables for the customer access circuits on the coming off of the upfitter relay and fuse box that's here. Because of the running change in the 2017 model, they no longer have PTO request or PTO1 on this side, so that's why we had to run this loom all the way from one side of the engine bay to the other.
This is the one that we found to be for the switch that we're using for auxiliary 1. It's green and brown, not to be confused with the other green and brown one that is also present.
No, the other one is brown.
Brown, but there's like two of them that look same.
Yeah.
So here you can see the relay box in its final position. Just push down on those 2 pins. Everything's now wired up and working properly. You can see we just tucked away the upfitter harnesses and all the rest of the associated wiring out of the way. It's all in the details. Here we've got the truck running, and we're gonna go and test the elevated idle. So we can see the elevated idle works. And that's the end of the upfitter mod for now.
We did the upfitter mod and the stationary elevated idle control modification. This is what we've done tonight. Obviously this helps when you have the upfitters from factory. We didn't have that, so we had to do the whole entire upfitters swap. You know, this is the original upper console, and then we added harnesses to make this plug and play. But you know, for the most part it was plug and play. You know, there was no, for the upfitter switches itself, we didn't have to create any harnesses. They were all supplied from factory. And you know, besides having to snake it through, all your mounts were in the right place. You know, everything was there. You know, it is truly a plug and play mod, you know, regardless of what the dealership said. So